Hello once again, everybody, and welcome back to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Sockers and the Major Arena Soccer League. Alongside Tony Sanchez, Craig Elston here with you. It's such a pleasure to be back with you, nuestra familia de los Sockers de San Diego. Tony, how you been, my friend? Oh. Hey, Tony.
Hi. Can you
it's
hear
great
me now?
to hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I mean, literally all that was missed is that it was a rainy day here in San Diego. Some equipment might have gotten a little, damp, but we rock on. And thank you for everybody who joined us. Hope everybody stayed safe. And man, it was interesting out there. But you know what? I'm happy to be back with the familia de los Sockers, as you said, Craig.
Oh my goodness! So, generally everything okay at Casa de Tony?
Yeah. We're right next to the Tijuana River Valley, and interesting days here. But everything is a-okay. Puppies are dry. Everybody's fine.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's been a wild 72 hours in San Diego. It's been raining everything but goals, and we'll be talking about it all. As mentioned, special guest this week, the Gabriel Costa. He checks in to talk about his adjustment to San Diego, playing the Strykers for the first time, and learning the ropes of what it takes to do an interstate back-to-back. They're starting to figure that out. They're going to have to figure it out again this weekend. Speaking of which, here comes another tough back-to-back. That's why today's show is titled, Here We Go Again. Season 6, Episode 12. Third time in 12 weeks that we are going into an interstate back-to-back. We'll preview both matches here in San Diego against St. Louis and on the road at Tacoma. Then, in the segment that everybody in the league tunes in to hear, MASL News, we'll tell you how tough it is to win in Mexico. Kansas City found out the hard way. Monterrey, the only team who says no problem winning in Mexico. They beat Chihuahua again and continue to run the show. All the latest in MASL News, all ahead on the show of record in the league. Soccer's Overtime. Thanks to our live viewers joining us tonight on Twitch. Appreciate everybody who's an early adopter. Thanks to everyone watching on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe to our Soccer's channel here on YouTube. Click like, add some comments to add a little flavor for the algorithm, and to all our audio listeners as well. Well, Tony, a weekend without Soccer's wasn't a weekend without soccer. There was plenty happening in the MASL, but for San Diego, I think an important chance to kind of cool the jets a little bit after 3 games in 5 days, 4 in 7, if you count that futsal exhibition, which the players who played in it certainly would count. It was a good thing. The last 2 mornings, you talk about the rain, the last 2 mornings, training was moved to La Mesa Indoor, thanks to Bradley Park just being a puddle. And so I actually got to go to a little bit of training the last 2 days before Annie and Elston got to check in for at least 20, 30 minutes down at La Mesa Indoor. And good to see a lot of the players who we have been noticing their absence on the floor, at least out there for training today.
Yeah, it's a really good reset for the team, right? They had a couple of instances where the legs were on their last, I don't even know, electron of energy. Not a science guy. Either way, those legs were tired and definitely needed that rest, only to kick back up because, again, as you're saying, there's going to be more interstate grueling travel coming up for the Sockers, and they're going to have to be wise about how they manage those legs coming into this stretch because things are getting spicy in the West, especially with Chihuahua and who are they? How are they managing to play, flash the way that they have? And interesting times here.
Yeah, the landscape of the MASL is shifting. There's no question about it. It's shifting to the south, where I think the further south you go, the closer you are to championship contention. And luckily, we're very close to the border. Texas Outlaws a little bit further north of the border. And the further north you go, it just seems like the lesser chance you have right now. Of course, anything can change in the MASL. Injuries change things. Visa issues change things. Many things change over time. But right now, we did that tier list last week, and I mean, I don't think I have one thing to regret based on that tier list.
That was some good stuff, Craig. Honestly, the reasoning behind it, I think that's what I like about you know, our list, your list, Craig, because it has the whys. It's not necessarily an arbitrary. Well, here you go, and this team hasn't played in a week, so we'll consider them, not losing or however that gets dictated. But either way, that's why people tune in, right? To find that
That's
out
why,
from
yeah, that's why we're the
from.
show of record. That's why every time when I look at the Twitch numbers, it always goes, oh, here and then up here and then MASL news up here to the highest. That's when you start to see all the folks from the league in the chat as well. So don't worry, that's still coming up. But first, we do have a game to review. It happened a day after our last show, so it's 6 days old. Not fresh in everyone's mind, but it's a goal that's always going to be worth revisiting as we head up the highway for the Sockers and the Empire Strykers. You'll hear Gabriel Costa talk about this momentarily. First shift, first shot, first goal in his old home with his new team. Sort of a subdued celebration for Gabriel Costa, but he was actually battling a sore hamstring, Tony, after a weekend that included a back-to-back and all of the activity. He was just kind of happy to get his laces through that one.
Yeah, no, it's a good start from him, especially when we were talking about they need to score in the first quarter, and they got it done. Gabriel Costa getting in there and getting early in on the action against his old team.
From that point, a goaltender's duel developed for at least a quarter or so. A lot of good saves on both sides. Brandon Gomez for Empire, and of course, our good friend Boris Pardo for the Sockers. There's one of them right there, denying Harold Hansen. Flurry of quality saves here at 1-0 for Boris Pardo to keep the match exactly where it was. Combo saves, indeed. As Empire tries to put the pressure on. That was some not so great defending by San Diego right there, and Pardo cleans it up. Mijatovic has a good shot. Pardo cleans it up. Seeing a consistent refrain here. Now it's Gomez's turn for a lovely kick save to keep things at 1-1. Here's a golden opportunity. Gomez comes all the way out and denies. Ruggles this time. Little bit of a miss. And at this point in the match, 1-0. It's Pardo's turn again. He gets to go post to post. Cardenas helping. You're starting to get that feeling, aren't you, Tony? Because there just hasn't been much offense for the Sockers of late, and this far into the match, there wasn't either.
Yeah, it's kind of like that vehicle that you have that you need to let it warm up once the oil starts flowing, once things starts warming up. If they're not warming up by a certain point, you start thinking, well, can this potentially be another struggling game? But at the end of the day, the Strikers did have a lot of opportunities on themselves. And I think it's just those details and minutia that needs to be fixed because the elite teams are not going to be as, let's say, generous as Strikers are in those positions.
Here, just bad luck for Boris Pardo. He has no eyes on Mijatovic trying to clear the ball, winds up drilling Mijatovic in the leg. It's a penalty kick, not just a penalty, and it's against X for that matter. So Mijatovic drills the PK for 1-1. The Strikers didn't score a regular goal in this match. They didn't score a single goal in the run of play. It was either 6 attackers or that penalty kick for how Empire got their goals. But now 1-1. Some back and forth action here that winds up leading to San Diego taking the lead, starting off with another great save by Pardo, and then Hansen almost in sort of a harbinger of things to come, attempting the bike back to the other side. Morgan putting it into the middle. Salazar gets an inadvertent touch, but it drops to Juan Gonzalez, who drills it for 2-1, and at least the Sockers have the lead going into the locker room, Tony.
Yeah, and that was essentially what you wanted when you go into the locker room. Even though it's a 2-1 lead, nobody's happy with it going into it. You need that boost of confidence to make sure that it's not just on Boris Pardo at this point, getting the Sockers out of trouble and, having a fantastic performance. But again, you need that offense to really start coming in.
Halftime and an immediate change for the San Diego Sockers. Our GM, Sean Bowers, told me some real halftime discussions were had at Toyota Arena. Some adjustments were made. And instead of near goals, it became goals for San Diego. In fact, overall, a flurry of 7 consecutive goals for the Sockers in this match. Here they come one after another. This one, unlucky for Brandon Gomez. And a well-placed shot from outside by Escoto. That would normally be saved, but he's screened. And the ball almost playing tricks on his eyes, if you can imagine it, even better from the low angle to see how it goes right over the head Morgan and Way were Guy, pardon me, were posted up there. That might have been Cisse. And ball goes right over the top of the two of them for the goal for 4-1. I love. We thought that would be Escoto's goal of the week candidate. Turned out to be a distant second. Charlie Galasso going for it. Look at the sustained pressure for San Diego here. Second chance, no. Third chance, ding, ding, ding. Back to Costa. Finally a goal.
Yeah, and it's those chances that we've been seeing that at the end, it's not a goal, and you see the rebounds. Chadley being very smart there after the initial free kick is he can't touch the ball. He can't be the first player to touch the ball. He waits for the defender to be that first point of contact. That's why he can then go and start that flurry of shots and rebounds that eventually ends in a goal. But again, it's that breath of fresh air. Like, fine, like, yes, these plays actually turned into points and meaningful scoreboard in meaningful ways. And look at that shot. It's a great shot. Like, how did that not go in already? That's
Yeah, Doc Reimer called it the 3-post ring around. I mean, I think it hit 2 posts, right? It was ding, ding, and out. So maybe the 2-post ring around. I don't know. Nonetheless, the Sockers happy to get the goal for 5-1. Looked like 5-2 for a second until the replay came out, at which point this is one of the more obvious handballs you'll ever see. I loved it if you were watching Eddie Bear's recap here, that it's got Doc going, well, it's not very definitive. You can't really see. And then, oh, I guess you can.
Yeah, there was an immediate turn of like, oh, okay. Like, you almost saw his facial expression. Oh, yeah.
Charlie Galasso. That futsal move, stepping on the ball, pulling it back, switching from right to left and scoring. I mean, it never gets old.
To have that talent to put it exactly where you want. Because this isn't necessarily a shot as much as a power pass. And you just have that corner located, and to put it exactly where you need to, it takes incredible amount of skills. Golazo.
Child's 400th point. And it comes with a point, as in pointing to a spot on the floor for Stefan Mijatovic. And the moment Mijatovic takes his little bunny hop, boom, the ball's in the pea patch. You got to love it.
Congratulations, Craig Childs. Would have wished it would happen here, but I'm glad it happened. Get it out of the way. It's just part of the course of the match, and let's keep this match going for a 7-1 at this point. You know what? Congratulations, but man, okay, let's get it out of the way. Now we have better things to take care of, according to Craig himself in the intro video of every episode.
Indeed. And there it is.
Madre mia.
How does someone decide to do this, Tony?
Okay, so clearly there's situations where you can go for this attempt, right? This is usually a last resource attempt in near proximity of the box, but to have the wherewithal to know the location of not only the defenders, not only the goal, but the trajectory that you have to take, the airborne aerial maneuver you have to take behind the line, and to have it placed exactly over Gomez, and I would be honored to have that goal scored on me. That's a beauty through and through.
Right-footed, no less. For the lefty Escoto. There were more goals, but here's the thing. At 8-1, and after that goal, I truly believe, Tony, the Sockers just shut it down. Yeah. They were like, cool, it's 8-1, let's celebrate, the game's over. And then here come the 6v5 goals for the Empire Strikers. Just somnambulant defense right there for San Diego, not moving left to right very well. A lot of ball watching for 8-2. And then we'll come around again, and here's 8-3. Like a moment later, it's 8-3. And we're like, I don't really care. Oh, but it's 8-4. So yikes. Still doesn't matter. It's a 4-goal game, no big deal. But again, everyone is behind the play, out on an island. Poor Boris Pardo. Great chance there to beat the extra keeper. Doesn't happen. Mijatovic comes back. Mijatovic scores. 8-5, which winds up being our final score in this one. I think a truly deceptive final score, Tony, in that it's 4 sixth attacker goals in a span of like 4 minutes there, right after 8-1. Hey, look, Gerardo Jurado getting in the face of a San Diego Soccer.
Yeah, getting himself booked on that and a blue card. And, we were talking about that. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but
Well, this was scary. I just want to let everyone know Savoy was on the floor, full participation yesterday, full participation today.
excellent.
So it was scary, is what it was. It was scary, and it was just that, a scare. Scare is over. Tavoy is okay. See, can we watch it one more time? Let's watch it one more. Oh, okay.
So I actually have the video. I don't know if you want it with audio, because again, I do see the comments filling in the doctor with like equal opportunity golazo callers, and I have to tip my hat off to that, because not everybody will do that in that situation, but to be able to recognize the moment and recognize how great of a goal that is, it takes a real understanding of the match. But here it is.
Momo. Pressure on Gomez. Whoa! Oh my Lord! That has to not only be the goal of the game, the goal of the week, possibly the goal of the season. Escoto with the bike. Oh Dios mío! What a golazo! Doctor, walk us through.
Well, someone get the estate of Freddie Mercury on the phone, because we got a man here who wants to ride his bicycle. A bicycle kick from outside the yellow line. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That is a wonderful, wonderful addition to this goal in itself, and this beauty that, Craig,
I couldn't agree more.
This is
Couldn't agree more.
Poetry in motion. It's so amazing to see these athletes do what they do on the school ground, and it takes such skill to not only do this, Craig, but to not hurt yourself is another aspect of this, where he lands on a cushion. He lands so well. He had this planned.
Look at his right hand, right wrist goes down. Elbow actually takes the brunt of it. Helps bring him down to the turf. There's no aspect of this I could do. I can't do that. I definitely can't do that. And if I did do that, I would have two broken things. I'd have a broken wrist and I'd have a bruised tailbone.
Oh man,
nope, can't. Nope, no, can't do that. Nope. Oh, I could break my wrist. I could do that.
And still follows the ball the entire way. He knows that's going in, and there's no doubt, like, all right, it's a good hit. It's a good strike. You feel it immediately, but he has to make sure. And to see that ball go in has to be something else. Brandon looked ecstatic. Yeah, that's a worldie. That's one that you dream of, to have a chance to score and to even do, right? You get the oohs and the ahs. You practice that before the coach gets there, before you get warmed up and you start messing around. You score one of those. Coach comes up and is like, you better not try that. And then guess what? You try it and you get yourself a golazo. I was really excited, man. We love to see it.
That's the best indoor bike I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen one better.
Yeah.
I was there live for Farb's bike in Harrisburg. That was closer. That was inside the crease. That was kind of like around the top of the D that he put it in. That was a great play. That he biked in traffic, but 30 yards out. To be able to connect that, to have it go right in the upper heart of the net, like dead center. Honestly, there's been some great outdoor bikes in history as well, Tony, and obviously it's a completely different animal, but just in terms of distance, power, accuracy, I don't know I've ever seen a better bike.
Yeah, because guess what? At the end of the day, that was the last resource he had, because he wanted to score. He wanted to do a movement in order to get a point, because it would have been just as easy just to stand there and let the ball drop. Have him control it, look around, pass it over. Hopefully they can get a shot on. There's still no goalkeeper. Gomez is still outside of his box. But all of those calculations and scenarios have to happen in order to get to the point where you decide, I'm going to go airborne on my weak foot and have and see what happens. And that's the thing. That's to see what happens. That's good contact. That's good enough to go ahead and look behind me and, okay, cool, we're good. Hey, man, goal of the year. Sensational.
Goal of the year. I know the MASL made a goal of the week video and put other goals in. And I think that was silly. The goal of the week video just should have been what we just did. It just should have been the Escoto goal from every angle, recycled 6 times, and then be like, okay, vote. Here are your choices: Escoto, 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 or Escoto. It's Escoto. Thank you. And if anyone votes anything else, you're a homer. You're a homer. You are a dear fan of a different player. Maybe you are a relative or family member or teammate of a different player, but nobody objectively in their right mind would pick anything other than Escoto.
There is not a player in this league that wouldn't want to have been Brandon Escoto scoring that goal. Period. Everybody wants to score a goal like that.
No question about it. I'm sure though Zach Reggett did something perfectly marvelous. So while Kansas City got bummed 3 times, I'm sure he did something good. So I'm sure that made goal of the week too. Yeah, what a goal. I'm not going to say what a game. The Sockers had to go out and play a good game in Empire. We talked about that on last week's show. It wasn't just a matter of winning. It was a matter of going out there and looking good and taking care of business, restoring order, restoring confidence, putting the Chihuahua game way behind you. At 8-1, it felt way behind us, but a first half of even play against Empire doesn't feel great. 2-1 didn't feel great, and allowing 4 goals in the fourth quarter didn't feel great. So there's still a lot to work on for the San Diego Sockers, my friend. This is by no means a finished product of a football club. I feel like they are still growing, and I think in many ways they still need to grow because there are levels to this, and the highest level is south of the border.
100%. And this was a good game to get that morale back, get that moxie of this is who the San Diego Sockers are meant to be. They are world beaters. If you come and challenge the Sockers, we will go ahead and layeth the smacketh down. But again, you have to go ahead and be able to recognize that you do have stuff to work on, like you're saying, because if you're just going to go and trust that we're good right now, this talent's going to carry everybody over into the championship game, I'm afraid that that's not the case because I'm seeing some really good team play out of other teams that is going to be at a point of almost perfection by the time playoffs come in. And that is going to be enough to take any talent off the court and run it out. And we saw it here with Chihuahua. And I really hope that was a wake-up call for the Sockers. And I hope they answer the bell. And they seemed okay in answering the bell with the points. Now let's go ahead and get better as we move forward with of their different levels of competition as well.
And 2 big opportunities to get 6 points here this weekend. You know, we'll talk about it more in MASL news in terms of where the goalposts are for the San Diego Sockers going forward, kind of from a soccer-centric standpoint. The more Monterrey wins, the more you really start to wonder what value there is in pursuing a MASL Shield this year. It could literally already be over because, I mean, I know Monterrey has 13 more games, but they've played the toughest competition they're going to face. They've won every game. We went through it last week. We asked the question, will Monterrey lose? There's another chance in Milwaukee. You know, there's a couple chances north of the border, but from what we're seeing so far, they very well may go undefeated. And if they do, we're going to feel really dumb having chased hard to get to 23-1. You know, I mean, you need to finish one game better than the rest of the West, essentially, if Monterrey is going to go 24-0.
Yeah, and you can't be worried about numbers. You can't be worried about stats at that point, or maybe even personal accolades if those are in the conversations at the end of the season. And I think setting those parameters to understand that if the Shield happens, fantastic. You take it, you roll with it. But again, what is that going to do for you? You got that last season. How did that feel? You got the Shield, right. But this time you have an opportunity to really make up for the lack of whatever it was in that Chihuahua game, and right or wrong in a sense. And look, I listen to Craig Childs in that intro in the arena every time, and I almost respond to him like, okay, let's see it. Let's get that last one. Let's do it for everybody, for San Diego, for the building, for everybody who's worked there. Let's do it. Let's go. And with performances like Chihuahua, that takes a little bit off, that little shine off the crest. But if they're going to be resilient, if they're going to be a working champion that's going to claw from the depth whenever they get there, let's go. I'm all in for that, Craig.
Time for our special guest now. It's been a situation we've been excited for a while. I think week one, honestly, Tony, I reached out to Gabriel Costa and said, listen, new soccer, we'd love to have you on the show. Please, let's get you on. And he said, cool, one problem. I coach every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 4 to 8 p.m. And I'm locked in. Private lessons, public, this, that. Can't be there. So had the chance to see him Monday morning, like I mentioned, at La Mesa Indoor. We did it last week, so now it's an open avenue. I said, hey, Gabi Gol, how about you and I get together on the old Zoom before you head out to coaching? So that's exactly what we did. This was recorded yesterday for full open disclosure on January 22nd, Brandon Escoto's birthday. Feliz cumpleaños, Churras. And here it is, my conversation with Gabriel Costa. All right, we promised it. Here he is. Gabriel Costa, Gabigol, is joining us for the first time on Soccer's Overtime. Glad we could make this work, my friend. Thanks so much for the time.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Craig.
So is every Brazilian excellent footballer named Gabriel Gabigol?
I think a lot of them. It's a pretty common name, so there's a lot of Gabriels in Brazil.
Do you prefer the more Americanized Gabriel or Gabriel?
Gabriel is fine. I mean, when I went to Spain, they called me Gabriel. When in Brazil, they call me Gabriel. Gabriel. Here, it's Gabriel. So it doesn't really matter, to be honest. As long as they call my name, I'll hear it.
As long as they don't call you late for dinner. I feel you. I feel you. That's great. Well, hey, early on now, you're fitting right in. 15 points so far, tied for third on the team in 8 games. That's basically the same rate you were at last year with the Strykers. So you're producing at that same level. You got to feel comfortable about that. But just overall, how has it been for you in your first few weeks with the team?
I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely a little bit different experience. There's so many players to do everything, already in the soccer team. With the Empire, I felt like I had to do more. So it's a good thing, and of course, points will come no matter what. So I just try to do my job, try to learn from the guys that are playing here, just learning from them, and I know little by little we'll get better.
It's one thing to try and fit into a team. It's another when a couple of the pieces get taken away along the way. You've had some road games without the captain, Craig Childs. Leonardo has been out the last 3 games, and that does slide the offensive burden around a little bit. It is seemed as such that when yourself, Brandon, and Charlie find your way out of the field at the same time, it just feels like a goal's going to cook every time. Have you enjoyed the synergy working with those two guys?
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing. That's the thing about our team, and that's why I bought into the plan of coming here, is that if people are out for either work or injury, there's many other players to fit in. And once those guys are out, then it's for whoever is left over there. And we are sure that everybody can do the job. So it's actually very fun to play with all those guys.
Now, your first game back to Empire was last week. It was a very important game for the club, of course, coming off of a loss to Chihuahua. But what was it for you personally to go back to Toyota Arena?
It was a little bit different, obviously. I think I played like over 10 games in that arena before. But I was fine. It didn't really get to my head about the fact that I was playing against them because we had played them already at home. I just had felt a little bit of my hamstring during warm-up, so I wasn't a little bit upset and scared to go into it. But I think I did fine at the end of the day, and I'm happy that we got the win.
I mean, you started it off with an absolute laser. Did that make the hamstring feel a little bit better?
Yeah, I felt a little bit in warm-up, but then that was once I shot it, I felt it a little bit. I remember people talking to me, like, hey, why are you not celebrating? I was like, I didn't think about it. I was just a little bit upset that I felt my hamstring then.
Interesting. How important was that game kind of internally, just bouncing back? Obviously, there are levels to these things, and we'll talk about Chihuahua in a second, but to have a game that, the final score is 8-5, but it was 8-1, late in the fourth. You guys really had that game by the neck. Was that a comforting feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I've been part of teams that always win and teams that don't win all the time. With those teams, soccer is already established team that we know we're gonna win most of the games. So once you get one loss, it's more about like just playing another game because the win's gonna come back. It's more that than lack of confidence or more like anxiety from not winning. It's just a matter of time for us to get back. So at least I didn't feel that pressure or there's nothing going on like that.
Let's talk a little bit about the Chihuahua match. It certainly was a stunner to the league. The Sockers, I honestly didn't know, Gabriel, until I was told by John Green some point in the fourth quarter that the Sockers had never been shut out, have never been. I've got wood right here. I'm knocking the wood. Have never been shut out in modern history since coming back under Phil Salvaggio 2009. They've never been shut out, got within 3 minutes of that. How much do you credit what you saw from Chihuahua? How much do you credit where you guys were physically, mentally after a really tough weekend of travel, or is it a mix of the both?
Yeah, it got to be a mix of both. I don't want to sit here and say that we weren't, ready for X reasons because I don't want to put excuses. We weren't at our best, that's for sure. We didn't play well. We weren't able to like fix what was going on in the game, and I think people, or at least for myself, I was exhausted. I think I slept 2 hours. Did not have the energy, and I think that happened with a lot of the guys and even the players that were coming in that didn't travel. They didn't travel, but they also weren't 100%. So I think it was a little bit of everything. They had new coach, new goalie that played well, and their energy, and they pressed us the whole time, which is something we're not comfortable. And usually teams are not able to do that because we usually break pressure, but we were tired. So I think we just didn't have enough with the ball, and then we got tired and more tired, and mentally we were exhausted too. So it was just a little bit of everything. But again, you got to prep to Chihuahua because they ended up beating us, and it wasn't close. They closed the game. It was early in the game that we didn't have a lot of chances until the, like you said, third 3 minutes left that we scored. And after watching the game, I watched the game many times, and I remember once you said that, and I was like, wow, thank God for Tavoy, because I did not would not want to be a part of the team that gets shut out for the first time.
Yeah, I was truly honestly blown away by that. But then again, you figure Craig Giles was on all those teams, so usually that's a goal or two right there in and of itself. It's remarkable how this sport goes, though, isn't it? I mean, that a result like that is still possible. Anything's possible in this game with the crazy bounces and the walls.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when I first joined, I was so excited to play a game that it ends up being like, I don't know, 12-10. I was so impressed by the fact that you can have so many goals back to back, and it's impressive as well how the momentum gets teams going. So it's very fun.
And yet, as you found out here in San Diego, 12-10 is not going to be a score we're going to accept, because giving up 10 is not okay.
I don't think that's ever going to happen here.
Gabriel, just talking about kind of the living side of things. Who are you clicking with on the team? What has it been like adjusting to being here in San Diego?
It was easier than I thought. Obviously, coming from a opposing team, and I had butt heads with a lot of the players, but it was easier. They were very, they made me very comfortable from the beginning, and obviously, I knew a lot of them from before. Like half of them I had played, off season with them, and I play video games with some. We go to Starbucks together, so it's pretty fun, and there's nothing really for me to complain. I love San Diego, and I'm happy to be here.
What's something that Sockers fans don't know about you?
That they don't know about me. I don't know. I feel like you guys said a lot already about me. I'm assuming that I've lived in Spain for like a year and a half when I was underage, like 16, I think. Maybe that's one of the things. That's when I played futsal there too. So that definitely helped me with the indoor world.
What was it like to be away from your home, your family, your country, being in an entirely different place at that age? What was that like for you as a young man growing up?
Yeah, that shaped me a lot in how I am, and like with a lot of my feelings and being able to control them. I think that helped a lot because I think I left the first time I was 15, and then I was away for like 4 months, I think. Then I came back. Then after a month, I went for like a year and a half. Then after I came back, I came to the U.S. and fully like migrated to the U.S. So I've been around away pretty much my whole life, as far as I remember. So I mean, it's tough for everyone, for their own ways. But I'm just able to. I'm happy that I was able to adapt pretty well, and obviously I married an American. It's a little bit easier for those that have girlfriends or wives in Brazil. My life is a little bit easier because she's here. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm used to it.
When you think and you dream, do you think and dream in Portuguese or in English?
Both. It happens either in Portuguese or in English, but mostly in English, to be honest, because I'm always speaking English unless I'm calling like friends or my family. So most of the time it's English, but a lot of the times it's Portuguese as well.
Where have you found the best Brazilian food yet in the States?
We just found a Brazilian place called Brazuca Cafe. Me and my wife found like 2 weeks ago, I think, in Orange County, and it's by far like the best that I've had in the US.
Okay. All right. We'll look for the
Yeah,
Google recommendation
yeah,
uh,
it's very good.
along the line. All right. Before we let you go, it's a big weekend. It's alumni night. First off, I don't know if you know that on
Hmm,
Saturday night, but
didn't know.
it is the last alumni night at Pachanga Arena. So for Brian Quinn and Julie V and Zoltan Toth and some of these, all-time legendary players, it's the last chance for them to be down on the arena. It's always a special night for the Sockers franchise because you are playing in front of these MISL greats. You're playing in front of Kevin Crow, et cetera. These players that have been a part of indoor history. St. Louis is in town for that game, but then it's right back on a plane. We're doing it again, but in reverse. You guys are flying into Tacoma this time instead of out of Tacoma. So obviously you've had experience with this now. It'll be the third time already this season, but what is the challenge different when it's back to back?
Yeah, that's pretty insane that we have to do all those traveling. I'm not used to that, and my body definitely feels it because playing outdoor, it was always a game. Even in college, was pretty close, but we had like a 2-day rest. So I was able to be somewhat recovered, but with the MSL, it's pretty tough. I think for me, at least, what I would say is I'll try to save myself in the first game because before we played Chihuahua, if you remember the night before, it was a very tough against Tacoma. I think we won with like 2 minutes left, and I was
Right.
exhausted after that game. And thinking about having a game the day before, my mind will remember Chihuahua and be how tired I was for that game. So I would not let that happen again. So I'm there to not let another lose come in our way. But yeah, watching it would be fun. I think it's in the halftime, right? The alumni game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it would be fun to watch these guys because I've never really watched them. I had to probably should do some research and watch them back in whenever they played because that they must be really good.
Yeah, well, ask Childs a couple questions. He can fill you in. Certainly, he knows all the history, and otherwise, you can ask me a couple more, and I can fill you in on the rest. So, it's a history that's unlike any other. I'll tell you that. It's a history of true domination and greatness, and international superstars, and everything in between. Speaking of international stars, here's the newest one on the team. It's Gabigol. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate
Of
the
course.
time. Good luck with coaching, and we'll see you out on the floor.
Thank you, Craig. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay. And now back to live Soccer's overtime. Different look, no hat, different jacket, different t-shirt. It's because we're in real time now, Tony. We're back out of the time machine. But what were your thoughts on what you heard from Gabigol there?
No, obrigado, Gabriel. Você é uma pessoa muito interessante, e that's about all I have. But no, I really liked hearing the fact that it's a real perspective of what the team is going through from the loss against Chihuahua and how that bounce back really was fired up because of that game and the fallout from it. And just, I love that you asked those questions as far as it's just the respect to give to players that do come from other places in the world of like, how do you pronounce your name? And what do you like? Like, that's just a great consideration that A lot of people don't do that, right? Like, Jose, you can make the effort, but it's one of those things where you want to make the person feel comfortable. And Gabi seems incredibly comfortable in all aspects here in San Diego and with the Sockers, and that's great to see. Great for him to recognize that. Yeah, no, I had some tiffs with some of these players before, but now I have them as my teammates, and it's something that we're gonna have to work through. And now, at the end of the day, it's really coming together, and the synergies is palpable. And that's what I love about Gabi himself, is that he recognizes that, yeah, at Empire, I had a little bit more of the load to carry, and I had to make sure that, I was doing as much as I can. But here, it's not so much that he's taking a step back, but he's just letting his teammates also contribute to that. And that's an aspect that I think is going to be an X factor when it comes to playoffs. Because if Escoto's playing the way that he's playing, and then you add Gabi to that, and Leo comes back healthy, it's a completely different San Diego soccer team that we're talking about.
I think we heard in one of his last answers there too, almost skipping ahead to Soccer's news, a big key for this weekend's preview, which is take care of business against St. Louis. Like, drop the hammer against St. Louis to have an easy game, and the type of game where you're not going to be exhausted at the end. They played a nail biter in Tacoma that went right down to the final whistle. They finished that game, and then they were on a flight the very next morning. And as you heard him say, like, basically a couple hours sleep, really no chance to reset your mental fatigue from being in such a battle. And then it absolutely laid out into Sunday's match. So I certainly expect there's going to be lineup changes from Saturday to Sunday as well. I mean, Gregor hasn't gotten on a flight yet this year to Tacoma. So, we'll see if anything changes in that respect. But for a team that doesn't have the level of depth that it had a year ago with an M2 team, maybe that is going to be a real key, is how quickly can you take care of business on Saturday so that you can kind of pull the parachute for Sunday's game?
Yeah, and it's that load management. The players know it, and he knows it himself as far as the body goes, is knowing that rest is absolutely crucial. And, the travel is grueling with the travel coming up as well. That's something that they're going to have to take that mental note. And the players themselves have to take care of themselves more than, say, in the outdoor game, because there's somebody who provides the food. Here, they have to provide their own essentially ways of going about things. Every player is different. Every player does different rituals, different stretches, and all of that has to be factored into how to better prepare themselves for the training that the Sockers will give them and impart on them to go into the game match fit. So it's multi-layered, Craig, and it's sometimes not something considered, but I'm glad we're talking about it.
Absolutely. So thanks again to Gabi. Really appreciate his time. Thanks to Xavier a week before, who had the same situation, couldn't come on live, but we were able to get him on. I'd much prefer to have a live interview where we're getting your comments in the chat and we're getting Tony's questions mixed in with mine. But, we'll do what we can to get you the stars of the San Diego Sockers on Soccer's Overtime. We will not rest until they are all on the show. We will catch them all like Pokemon in our little disc. We'll catch them all. Okay. Is everyone here? Is everyone arrived? Is everyone in the waiting room? Is everybody in the chat? It's time for MASL news. Come on in. Make yourself at home. Don't worry. I'm not going to burn you too bad. I don't think we got anything too serious this week in MASL news. What we've got is Kansas City Flameout is what we got. We've got the Comets taking a season that was looking like it was going to be a chance for number one. And now it's really looking like, are you going to be number 4? Are you going to be in the sacrificial lamb position of 4th and going into Monterrey in the first round? Because there can't be a Comets fan anywhere that's happy with what they saw in Mexico. Now, last Sunday, the 12-5 loss, coming off the heels of a loss at home, that was bad. But the second game, Tuesday, it was the game that started when we were on the air last week. And then I was sending you texts while you were doing 2 balls in a mic going like, you can't believe this. You can't believe this match. Kansas City was supposed to win that match. They were up at halftime. They were up in the third quarter. They took a lead in the fourth quarter. Was there some sketchy officiating in the fourth quarter? Arguably so. Although I honestly think the penalty against Chad Vandegrift that led to the blue card that was the go-ahead goal was the right call. He reached out with two hands from behind on a player and yanked him. So that, okay. The call with the play that Monterrey had with 1 second left to scissor down a Kansas City player, that should have been a red and a suspension, in my opinion. They gave the player a blue card, but the cynicism of it was so extreme, especially in that it was the last footballing action of the match in a 1-goal game. And, by committing that foul, essentially the game was ended, regardless of what penalty you gave. So to me, that's why it had to be a red. I was very disappointed with that particular call, which was also funny because I know you went back and watched a little bit of it, but like the flash announcers, who I love the flash announcers. No one is having more fun than the flash announcers. They're singing through goals. They are goofing around on the air. I mean, all the time they're goofing around. The keeper for the Comets was Philip Ejimadu, so he became Yabba Dabba Doo.
Yabba Dabba Doo.
Yabba Dabba Doo, Yabba Doo, Yabba Dabba Doo. Like, I played 3 clips from that game the next morning on Annie and Elston, just because of how good their calls were. But through that, they were riding Kia Depina like the pony outside Woolworths that you put in the penny to make it rock. I mean, every single time the whistle blew was all, Depina, Depina, ¿qué está haciendo? Depina, Depina. At one point, he's like, el nombre es Kia? Kia? Quiero otra marca. on another brand. It's just absolutely dying. But I mean, they were riding him like a dray horse. And then what do you know? In the fourth quarter, all the calls went Monterrey's way.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a fun one in all aspects. I was sports entertained for that match, and that's what this league can go ahead and have. I have to agree, right, with the red card shout there that should have been, because you can in a game like that, you're essentially rewarding a team for playing dirty and cheating the system. There's no such thing as let's tack on extra time at all, but it's a strategic loophole in a way that I think even with that call and had it been a red and a suspension, they still would have done that and would have called it worth it and probably man of the match worthy because of that action. And you know what? You took one for the team.
Should there be an NFL like game cannot end on a defensive penalty type rule where if you commit a deliberate blue to deny a scoring chance in the final seconds, you actually get to have that power play?
That's interesting in 2 ways, right? There's the Rocket League side. I don't know if you're familiar with Rocket League and the little car.
I know it. I've never played it. Yeah.
So essentially, if the ball is in the air and not touch the ground, the clock can be at 0. And you can score a winning goal. You can score a tying goal in that sense, right? So I think that's possible. But there is instances where the foul causes the action of a free kick, which then, it can mean a one last shot. And I've played in leagues where that's been a part of it where, yeah, this is a foul, but I can't blow my whistle in this situation, almost like you're not supposed to blow a whistle when it's a dangerous one-on-one play in the outdoor game because you're taking the advantage away. You still want that to happen. But again, do you impart, well, if the ball's in the air, you can still have a play. And then, if as long as it doesn't touch the ground, interesting. But, I don't know. I think we're onto something here. Let's contact the league.
I'm just asking questions. I know you're watching, Ryan. I know you're watching, Commissioner Tozer. I know you guys are at least getting the clip of it, but might be something to consider. The thing about that particular play was the distance from goal, because obviously if you're committing a terrible blue card penalty in the crease, it's going to be a penalty kick.
Yeah.
So, you've got that, or it could be a shootout and, so on and so forth. But from the distance that they were from the goal, that decision was to straight up leg wrap and tackle a player and deny their opportunity to send a, miracle Hail Mary long ball into the zone, for the remedy to be, okay, well, now you can kick your miracle remedy long ball and you kicked it tweet. Okay, game over. It didn't. It just allows for that to happen again, is my point. It allows for that to happen again. Nobody got red carded. Nobody got suspended. Really, there wasn't, I don't think, any controversy around it. There should have been some controversy, I believe, around that final call. But that was the 8-7 game. And hey, okay, they got shoved 12-5, coming off a loss at home to Utica. Very disappointing for Kansas City. But then they had 2 days to kind of like chill, reset. They come back. They lose this game in Monterrey, but it's a complete heartbreaker. They played great. They absolutely could have won. Then they get one travel day, another day to rest, plot, prepare, stew, and they hit Corner Sport Arena to take on Chihuahua, and they get boat raced. 8-2 final score. This result on the back of what Chihuahua did to us at Pechanga Arena is why I'm like, yep, you got to put Chihuahua in the top 3 teams in the MASL. This is the new Savage with Reynoso not allowing goals at all.
Yeah, no, this team is really something that's been a bit of a revelation, right? They're coming into their own, and yeah, you look at Kansas City's downward spiral. It was looks like it's still, still might be happening, but it's still in that. Well, they have been really good in the first part of the season, so they're a good team. They're capable of putting a good team out there and being competitive. But then Chihuahua, did they have that extra pizzazz, a je ne sais quoi, after coming to San Diego and beating San Diego and just riding that high? Still new car smell, but now you're driving it in your town. Showing it off to everybody. And, I think that's a combination of column A and column B. Perfect storm of that coming together. But I saw this 8-2 and I'm like, Chihuahua is not messing around. And you know what? Pobrecito comments, but they just run into the buzzsaw that Chihuahua now is once again.
When we say there are levels to this, this is the kind of thing. I'm not trying. I don't want to say it in a bad way. This is the kind of thing people in the MASL need to pay attention to. These are the types of results that MASL people should be weighing heavily come awards time, come selecting top teams, because we can list all the Comets who kick butt against Harrisburg, and just flatten St. Louis. And we can take that and just rate it even to everything else and do ourselves a disservice. Or we can say that how you play against the Strykers, how you play against Monterrey, how you play against Chihuahua, like that's what you need to stand up and pay attention to. If you're getting dominated by these other teams, and then you're beating some of the lower teams in the league. What's that phrase I heard a couple of weeks ago? Flat track bullies. That's what you are. You're a flat track bully. When everything's just flat track and no problem, you're racing by, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And then once it starts to get a little hilly and a little mountainous and you get to start to have some grade that you have to go over, all of a sudden you slow way down. And that's what, there's a lot of that in this league. The MVP has been determined every year by the guy who can rack up the most points against the bottom tier teams and dominate the most against the third and fourth tier teams. And what they do against the first tier teams really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they just look at the score sheet and they just look at the points accrued and goals and assists and points and say, okay, well, that player must be the best. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if I was going to fill out an all MASL bracket right now, I don't know if there would be anything but Flash on the bracket. I mean, I might find my way to one or two other players, but I would make sure that the Flash had someone at every single position.
Yeah.
Because they're the best team right now. Rojo, Pantera, El Sargento, Christian Hernandez, you go down the list. I mean, I would just stock the ballot because that's clearly the best team. Everyone has the right. Everyone who has a ballot has the right to fill it out the way they want. I fill it out NBA style. I look for best players on best teams. That's how I do it. And the reason the people in the NBA who get paid lots of money, and people who have to have, be part of a writers association and everything else, the reason they do it that way is because it's fair to the players. as opposed to just going, oh, well, the kid on Washington scores 31 points a game. He must be league MVP. Team went 17-62, but must be league MVP.
Yeah, and I mean, until proven otherwise, right? Like that Flash has to be the backbone of that potential best 11/6 in this version of this voting system. And I challenge the league to really look hard at some of the great defending and contributions that players are doing behind the attacking line, because that's where a lot of this attack and bases start from. You have to have a good defense when building a team. If you tell me from the back to the front, you need to have a very versatile and solid defender to be able to go up and distribute the ball, have the speed enough to come back and track back and do everything that a midfielder does. And occasionally, if you can get yourself a goal or be involved in points, that's something that has to be taken into consideration. Even more, a goalkeeper. Like, why? That's one guy. That's one position. That's one individual who's single-handedly taking goals away and opportunities and points away from players on a day in, day out, quarter in, quarter out basis. And that's the most important and valuable position. And we've seen it, right, with Boris. If Boris isn't there, you know what? Todo respeto, love smiles. But at the end of the day, it's gonna look different on the score sheet and the score line if he's not present there.
100%. Going through the weekend that was in MASL, on Saturday, there was just one match. Ambush blew out Baltimore at Family Arena in St. Louis, 8-3. Baltimore loses again. The Blast are 11 points out of fourth place now in the East. 11 points out of fourth place for our beloved Blast, trailing Kansas City, who has 22 points, 11 points for the Baltimore Blast. They do have 3 games in hand on Kansas City. However, if they won all 3, they'd still be in 5th place by a couple of points. So not much to say right there other than, we'll talk about the ambush in a minute. And St. Louis scoring 8 goals is highly unexpected. Yeah. Better not happen on Saturday or anything close to it. So I just kind of took that as, okay, Baltimore doing Baltimore things, Baltimore at home, beating up on cream puffs like Harrisburg, putting up Instagram videos. We beat Empire. We beat Harrisburg. We're back. You're not back, dude. You're 5th. You're the 5th best team in the East, and you're going to stay there. Total respecto to not Ed Hale. Continuing through the weekend, that was interesting game for Dallas. Actually gave Milwaukee a ride up in Wisconsin, 4-3 win for the Wave there. But Dallas was good and actually might have beaten them. Blas Perez hurt his hamstring after the first half. He had a couple of goals, though, early on. And I know Tom Wynn on the broadcast was kind of saying over to like, well, where's Blas Perez? Where's Blas Perez? This game is good. Like, where is he? And he was hurt. So he got hurt in the first half. Marcio still doing Marcio things. Goal and 3 helpers. But, 4-3 there. Nice win for Milwaukee. Not super impressive. The last 2 games of the weekend were the 2 most interesting games of the weekend. Really entertaining match to watch in upstate New York as Utica and Texas went back and forth. 9-8 was the final. However, that logo, MASL Soccer, that logo's dead wrong.
Incorrect.
It was the Utica Riggies taking on the Texas Outlaws. Did you have any idea what a Riggy was, Tony?
I had no clue what was going on. I don't know when I heard that this was a thing. And it might have been on a MASL Facebook group that I grazed over that had that logo. I'm like, okay, I think this is some. I literally just scrolled past and I thought, okay, this is some minor league team that's coming up at some point. And
right
after doing some research, I didn't know what to expect. I think I was looking at the schedule from the MASL. I'm like, who is this team? Is this another in-season one-off futsal game? And this is a futsal team? Like, what's going on? Like, And then I went over and saw the news of them. I've never heard this was possible in any league, but a 1-game name change, one just complete brand upheaval.
Yeah.
Wild.
It happens in minor league baseball all the time, where they'll just change and they're the Taco Masters for a day, or whatever, the Margaritas, or a Jimmy Buffett team or something. When I saw the logo, I thought it was some kind of sandwich, like because look, doesn't that look like there's like some vegetables sticking out the top there?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're told that that's rigatoni, do you know that's rigatoni?
And not even from the name. I mean, Ricky's. Yes, I can put two and two together now. But look, it looks like a overstuffed tamale.
Yeah, and it could be like a gyro. Like sort of looks like a gyro wrap. Yeah, it could be a burrito. I was like, well, is that what they call burritos in upstate New York? Riggies? No, in fact, Riggies is short for Chicky Riggies or Chicken Riggies, because somehow, and I did the same thing Toy Runner did. I Googled it. I Googled Chicky Riggy, and then it led me to I wasn't in the New Yorker, but it was like in some boutique website about how chicken rigatoni is the upstate New York specialty dish. That it just happens to be something that if you go to upstate New York, you're going to look for the Chicky Riggy on the menu, and it's going to be rigatoni pasta in a spicy, creamy tomato sauce with, of course, chunks of chicken and maybe some other vegetables along the way. I think it's one of these, if you know, or if you're there, you get it. Like, as I'm sure if we were one day out of nowhere, the San Diego fish tacos, and we were just like, the fish tacos are here, the fish tacos are there, the fish tacos are everywhere, there might be someone in upstate New York who's like, what are you talking about? Fish taco, what is that? Just like, I was like, Riggy? What is Riggy? What are you guys doing?
I thought that, the local cuisine would dictate that it's steamed hams. That upstate New York and Utica is known for. It's one of the most viral little clips of The Simpsons that Superintendent Chalmers and Principal Skinner are eating, and he sneaks over to Krusty Burger and says, "Oh, I just made these. What are these? Oh, they're steamed hams. I'm from Utica, and I've never heard of steamed hams. Oh, well, it's a regional dialect, so it's all good." But that's
Riggies.
The Riggy.
Maybe in the 90s it would have been the Utica steamed hams. Steamed ham soccer is on the air.
It's a regional dialect.
Indeed. So, shout out to the Riggies lost. Does that mean we never get to be the Riggies again?
Darn. Oh, and
Texas won in overtime. I mean, it was a really good game. The Utica scored with, I don't know, in the closing minute, Taylor Bond got a goal in the middle. Taylor was really doing the job. It's great to see Taylor, continuing to succeed in the Major Arena Soccer League. But then Texas gets the win. So, good win for Texas. And we had those two teams, Texas and Utica, in the same tier, as I remember last week. And that was why, because that's in that group of teams that could theoretically win a playoff series depending on the matchup. 10 seconds left for that Bond goal. Yeah, it was a great game. It was a really, really entertaining match. Great flow, back and forth. Very, very exciting, entertaining to watch. Bummer for the Riggies, who can never be the Riggies ever again because they lost. So come up with a new regional food to name your team after. No, you can be the Riggies again. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We would never do that. We would never take a name, lose, and then have the name again.
Yeah, it's a cursed name. It's cursed.
It's cursed forever. I would never eat chicken rigatoni ever again. If I lived in Utica and was a supporter of the club, I'd be like, I'm swearing off the Chicky Riggy for the rest of my life. I just like to say Chicky Riggy. I don't like to say chicken riggy. I like to say Chicky Riggy. And I'm going to just keep saying Chicky Riggy, Chicky Riggy, Chicky Riggy. Okay, last match was the match of the year so far in the league. Can't beat the Flash. Can't beat the Flash. Chihuahua played really well. Had that early lead. Shut out in the second half. They said Arena Monterrey. It was Arena Borregos. They did not move back. They did not put it on the grand stage. If they did, I would have really had something to say about that. No. Monterrey is 5-0 against the Chihuahua Savage, which make the Chihuahua Savage the most underrated team in the league at 4-5, 4-0 against every team that's not Monterrey, 0-5 against Monterrey. It brings me no pleasure to scroll down this score sheet, Tony, and see first star Pollo, second star Big Rojo.
Yeah, and in the moments
feel
that
good.
they did it, the moments, because those ended up being the 2 goals that led to this 4-2 victory. And look, it's very stark seeing them succeed elsewhere and doing very well and being able to come back in a difficult match too, because again, Chihuahua played really well, scored 2 early, really fantastic goals. Any other week contender of goal of the week, but as we know, Escoto's going to take that one. But then just to see Iram, El Pollo Ruiz, and Rojo assimilate very well together and be part of something special that's happening over in Arena Borregos is, I don't know. I also don't know how I completely feel about that. And I don't know, the dark lights is kind of ominous in that arena to see what's going on. I know there was a comment earlier as far as, is that the cameras? Is that dark like that in the arena? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know until I'm there, and I don't think I'll be there. I don't even know if we made it to the finals, depending on when it was, if I'd be able to travel to Arena Borregos with the radio show. But I'd love to see a Monterrey San Diego final. I'd love to see those teams match up, and the Strykers, frankly, have work to do if they want to get there. We're not going to put anything in the bag because Chihuahua is in this conference, man. And on the heels of that last performance and knowing how tough it is to win at Corner Sport Arena, I don't think anyone in San Diego should be acting fat and sassy at any point the remainder of the season. To me, and I'll just say very briefly, I wasn't at training long today. It just, situation with the new job and whatnot. But even in the brief time I was there, a couple players had a couple words with me, not words with me like Craig, no, but just noting like there are things we want to work on as a group. There are things we want to get better at as a group. There is a need, there is a desire from this team to improve, to work on some things. And it is incumbent on the coaching staff to work on those things and to give this team every opportunity to succeed when they are put in the most difficult situations. Because right now, we're a little bit of a flat track bully. We're able to pummel teams that are of a lesser level on the tier list. But when we took on Chihuahua, it didn't look like that at all. So, understanding all the things that went into that match, the travel, the difficulty, injuries, everything else, nonetheless, Strykers have work to do. So that turns us to Strykers news. Let's start with kind of going through the bullet points, things that the front office wants to make sure that we get out on the show and that I want to get out on the show as well. I believe we mentioned this last week too, but February 13th is confirmed as the makeup date for Texas coming to town from the water main game. So they're going to be here on the 13th and the 15th, a Tuesday and a Thursday, both 7:30 starts. The new news that I'm excited to share with you is that the concessions we received from the arena for the Thursday match have been extended to the Tuesday match. So on February 13th, like February 15th, free parking at Pechanga Arena. There's a $15 savings right there for both matches. For both matches, $3 Bud Lights. So it's a Bud Light Thursday night. It's a Bud Light Tuesday night at Pechanga Arena. By the way, this coming Saturday is a Bud Light Saturday night at Pechanga Arena. $3 Bud Light cans this Saturday. against the St. Louis Ambush for alumni game. But February 13th, February 15th, back-to-back against the Outlaws with 1 day's rest in between for Valentine's Day, so everyone can take out their novias. We're still working on the media game reschedule. It will not be February 13th. It will not be February 13th. I mean, I'm here to tell you that right now. We had at the staff meeting, we determined that beyond a reasonable doubt. It just makes no sense to try and have a Tuesday night media game. It just it's not going to work. People are busy. People are working. No good. So it's going to be in March. I don't know which game. I'm still kind of stumping for Star Wars night, which is a Friday night, but it could be one of those Sundays, the 3rd or the 10th. It'll be one of those dates, but don't you worry, Tony. We are going to have the media game.
I was not worried for a second. My record is the one that people are chasing and getting me to take a loss at Sports Arena, at Pechanga Arena. It's not going to be the case. So I think other people start revving up the engines and, use the extra time that you're given, because it literally took an act of whatever it was to stop another victory on that halftime court.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wonder if any of the alums are out there with an Allen wrench and an awl and a sledgehammer to try and pop a main, because this Saturday night is the final alumni game halftime spectacular at Pechanga Arena for the greats of the past, as the Sockers take on the St. Louis Ambush. 7:05 will be the opening kickoff, and then at halftime, the alumni halftime game. Final chance for those guys who made the sports arena what it was in the 1980s to be back on that same field, same turf, in between the boards, with those stands above them, with their fans cheering them on, with their names above them in the rafters. It's not like we won't have an alumni game next year in Front Wave Arena, but it's different. This is the grand old arena. This is the last chance here on the Midway. So very much looking forward to that. John Green's handling all the alums coming in, but we know we're going to have a big group there on Saturday. And it is a $3 Bud Light Saturday night. So prepare your Uber or your Lyft, or have your designated driver within your group. If the supporters groups are there, designate a few drivers, because the $3 Bud Light cans, I mean, look, there's no better deal in intoxication than the $3 Bud Light can.
And in sports in San Diego, right? Like, it's fun to come out. I had a couple of people who were interested in coming out last game, and they went to the Chihuahua game. And even though the result was the result, they had a really good time and are pumped when I told them that, hey, there's also this type of nights, and then you can go ahead and get some deals. And they got some childcare taken care of, and they'll be there at the 27th for $3 Bud Night lights.
Or Bud Light nights.
Bud Light nights? Bud nights. There's Bud nights.
Bud Night lights, but a Bud Night light is different. It's Budweiser that you plug into your wall to keep you warm and drunk at night. Just like, oh, Budweiser. No, Bud Light nights are when we drink Bud Lights for $3 at Pechanga Arena. Lisa Nesty asks in the chat, do you know what happened with Paul? That should be Dougherty. Paul Dougherty. Paul Dougherty left the staff of the Empire Strykers, left Paul Wright's staff after the second week of the season. So basically they had their first couple of games, and then they went on a road trip without him. And then when they came home, that was that. So love Paul Dougherty. Didn't work out with him and Paul up in Empire. Hopefully for Paul Wright, it works out up in Empire. However, things are not working out so far up in Empire. Back to us. Want to mention this special from the Sockers ticket department. February 25th. February 25th. Not sure what day of the week that is. Let me check on the old calendar here. February 25th is a Sunday. Sunday, February 25th. It's country night when the Sockers take on the Kansas City Comets. And you can take part in a special line dance down on the field at Pechanga Arena before the game if you buy a special boot scootin' ticket to the Sockers and the Comets boot scootin' line dance at Pechanga Arena for the February 25th game. There's a special ticket you buy that will get you in early, that will have you part with a line dancing coach. I guess there's such a thing. I'm sure there's such a thing. I mean, there's enough country bars in the world that there have to be line dancing coaches. But yes, you can do the boot, scoot, and boogie as a fan of the Strykers. And that line dancing is from 3 to 3:30 down on the floor. And then at 5:05, Strykers and Comets. So country night. Strykers will have Strykers country hat giveaways, cowboy hat giveaways. I've seen them. They're like straw. It's like a straw thing. It's almost like a straw hat giveaway. Nonetheless, that is February 25th. So ststrykers.com/ticket specials. If you want a boot, scootin' ticket, ststrykers.com/ticket specials for the boot, scootin' boogie. Boot, scootin', chicky riggy. These are just fun things to say.
I'm excited to see a different culture from my own. It's going to be very interesting to bear witness to this. I love it.
Boot, scoot, and boogie. ststrykers.com/ticket specials. All right, on to the preview to wrap things up. There's not a ton to be said about these two games, Tony. This is about Toy Runner, boot, scoot, and riggies.
The powers combined.
Just bring them all together like Wonder Twins. You too can order some boot, scoot, and riggies today. St. Louis Ambush are in town. St. Louis Ambush are a lower tier team in MASL. They're in 6th place in the East. That's almost undoubtedly where they're going to finish, although good on them for beating Baltimore and kind of getting into it in that sense. The key to know about St. Louis is they do not have a developed offense. This team is averaging 4.6 goals per match. They have one 10-goal scorer in William SK. They have 3 double-digit point scorers in SK Lucas Almeida and Robbie Cristo. It's kind of where the offense ends for St. Louis. This is a team that's been held to 1 goal multiple times this year, even at home. They are winless on the road. They're 0-3-1 so far this year. They will be playing a multi-game road trip. They're going to take on Empire later in the weekend up at Toyota Arena. And I am suspecting that St. Louis, much like Tacoma we saw a couple weeks ago, they're going to really kind of put their emphasis on that Empire game as one that they might have a chance to win. And then they're going to come into our game and, try and put up a representative effort. Strykers fans should hope for that because as we heard from Gabriel Costa earlier in our interview, a big key to getting 6 points and clearing 6 points out of this weekend, Tony, is to make the first 3 not too much of a difficult slog.
Yeah, and that's the key strategy here is to make sure to go in and take care of business. And I think that offensive onslaught can start early and really carry them into the first couple of games and utilize whatever energy is towards the back end that's necessary. And if you have to fight for a game that shouldn't be as tight as it is in the second or third, you're just wasting energy in that sense, and you can't let those games get away from you to begin with, right? This is a schedule that you're going to have to manage regardless, and you have been planning this, and it's going to be interesting to see how Phil Salvaggio and the crew really attack this in a tactical, strategic way. And load management is definitely something that's been talked about this season for the Strykers, and not just for the Strykers, just in general. I think I have here just the map of what this looks like.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, ouch. Dallas and Mesquite are relatively close, so you don't see them there. But that's the roadmap that the Strykers are going to be taking soon. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's a long trip popping right out of this home game. So, Strykers Saturday, St. Louis Ambush, Paulo Nascimento, that's the player really you want to talk about when you're talking about the Ambush, their goalkeeper. He's athletic. He's a dynamic shot stopper. He's a player who comes across midfield. He'll come into the attacking zone. He'll shoot. He does have an excellent save percentage on the season at 721. We don't get to see Paolo that often. I was like so freaked out when I saw it on Goals and Boards a couple weeks ago that I like literally texted Bergrud because they put him on the spot with a name your all-time team, like all-time indoor team. And he named Paolo as the goalkeeper. I'm like, what? Paolo? Like, he's interesting, but I've always kind of thought of him as like good, but not ever like in my thought for top goalkeeper of the league, never mind ever. And he told me he felt some pressure to, include some new players, some internal pressure. No one was telling him that. But, I'm like, just say Victor Nogueira. It's what you mean. When you say Paulo Nascimento, what you mean is Victor Nogueira. So just say that. But so my point is, the guy who could make this match tough on Saturday is Paolo. If Paolo is dynamite, if he is on his game, if he's on one, St. Louis will feed off of that. And quite frankly, we've seen the Sockers in this season play to the level of their competition, get a little frustrated, go into a scoring drought for a little bit of time. They're kind of channeling the Aztecs in that way. No scoring droughts. Like, take care of business, move the ball, stay wide, stay in your lanes, make it hard for Paolo to make quick reaction saves, shifting to his left and right. You will have no problem in a match like this. The Sockers should run the show with St. Louis. Honestly, St. Louis should not score more than 2 goals in this match. If they do, there's probably some tape work to be done, because then it's on to Lindbergh Field in the morning. First time we're doing this in reverse. Maybe it's better in reverse, but it's a flight up to Tacoma to take on Nick Pereira and the Stars. Acesso Showwear Center, Sunday at 5:00. The way the schedule rolls out, the Stars are playing Thursday at home, hosting Empire, and then they get to rest straight through to Sunday. So this is a major rest advantage for the Tacoma Stars. This is the most significant rest advantage you could have. They're playing Thursday, so they're fresh. They're not, rusty from a week. They get the full day recovery. They get the second day recovery, and the Sockers are playing a home game during their second day of recovery and flying the day of the match. So honestly, I expect Sunday's match to be close. And for the first time all year, I wouldn't be stunned to see the Sockers lose in Tacoma. I would be disappointed. I would be sincerely disappointed, because the Sockers simply shouldn't lose to Tacoma. We've seen these teams play enough. We know what the level is. We know what Tacoma thinks about it, because they sent their key players away last time that the two teams met, because they knew that the next result against Empire was the one they could take. However, they're going to have this one circled. This is the one, like, oh, we got to play these jerks 6 times. This is the one. If we're going to beat them 1 time out of 6, the one is match 5, Saturday or Sunday on the 28th, when the Sockers are flying in the day of the match. So I am literally expecting Pereira's best, Juice Cox's best, Chris Toth's best. And I think the Sockers cannot afford to do what they've done and just go, you know what? Childs is going to chill. He's not going to make the trip. Leo obviously missed the last 3 games. Are they going to ask him to play a back-to-back? They probably aren't. And so even if Leo plays on Saturday, and someone asked I don't have an official injury report. All I can tell you is I took a picture of him on the field today. So he was on the field today for the Sockers. That's good news on a Tuesday. But the idea that he would play back-to-back after being hurt, you take Craig and Leo out of the team. Now we saw what happened last time with a diminished Tacoma against a diminished San Diego. It was 6-5. Pereira can, by himself, put the 4 or 5 points up that Tacoma needs to stay in the match. So I'm really looking at Saturday being a game that there's pressure on San Diego to really execute and to have that score, 6-0 at halftime, 5-1, 6-0, something like that at halftime. Come out, play a strong third quarter, play a third quarter just like it's the first quarter of a game, and then pull the parachute. Hopefully be up 7-8 goals at that point. pull the parachute, put kids out there, rest the veterans, put Xavier in net. Hey, wouldn't hurt for Xavier to start Sunday's game. Would not hurt for Xavier to start Sunday's game. The Sockers really have to start thinking beyond just the purity of 24 games, got to get 22 wins, got to get the shield, got to play every game like it's the same game, and start to take these things tactically. They've got a veteran team. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays out, Tony. But, to me, to be able to take all 6, you have to really take care of business with the first 3.
Yeah, and I like that shout to have X start because, again, he's had already a couple looks and he's had meaningful contributions in that look over there in Tacoma. But, man, Tacoma is also the team, just like you said, that we've seen the most. They've also seen the Sockers the most, and now they have tape on potential loopholes or potential strategies to take that Chihuahua took to take it to the Sockers. And, look, they've played better each and every time. Each and every time they're closer and closer and closer to getting a victory or getting in a position to really put a game away or a position to put the Sockers on their butt, and they're not going to come back. This is where you show that this is now a different side of the Sockers. This is now a Sockers that punches back, a Sockers that is able to get back up because, again, the talent of Nick Pereira can carry that team against anybody. Let that be Sockers, let that be whoever. Nick Pereira is going to be a factor. But I think that this team has also come together in Tacoma where they know who they are. They know what they're up against. And like you said, it's circled. And this is probably one of their biggest games because they know if these 3 points are under their belt, it's going to very much affect where they're going to be at the end of the regular season.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, right now, I almost feel like the standings are set. And that sounds weird. The one thing is I'm 100% positive Chihuahua will overtake Texas and finish second in the West. But then I think the West is going to be Sockers, Savage, Texas, Tacoma. And I think I just don't see any other way for the West. I don't see any other way. The Strykers are not going to make the playoffs unless there's a whole nother set of Chivas ready to arrive. And even so, even so, I would not be so sure that they would make the playoffs. I mean, let's be honest. Miguel Ponce, you can tell me he's played in the league. I haven't noticed him. On the floor. He didn't even register against the Sockers in that match. I'm not honestly sure how much he was on the floor. It's that bad. No idea when it comes to Ponce. Fabian scores on power plays, scores on 6 attacker, does not defend at all, but is an offensive weapon in the league. There's no doubt about that. Ponce, no clue. So, Saturday, home, 7 p.m. Sunday, road, 5 p.m. No official watch party. I am here to tell you that the end of this road trip will see the Sockers' first official watch party. That will be the Friday, February 9th, 6 p.m. showdown at Corner Sport Arena between the Sockers and the Chihuahua Savage. And it will be at the Calafino Tasting Room, the Calafino Lounge up in Carlsbad, adjacent to the Sockers offices. And not for nothing, Tony and I are likely to be doing an English language broadcast of the match from the same place. Yeah, Susan asking, English call at Calafino. That's the plan. That is the plan. How we're going to execute it, I'm not sure. We might be up in, we probably won't be on the floor like we normally are, Tony. We might be up in the conference room, or we might be in the next room. I don't know where the hell we're going to be. We're going to be somewhere, but we're going to be doing it. So that's the end of this road trip. The road trip starts Sunday in Tacoma, continues Thursday and Saturday next week in Texas with the Texas two-step. Every year we have a Texas two-step. And the Texas two-step is next week, with the Sockers first being at Texas against the Outlaws on Thursday, February 1st. And then on Saturday, February 3rd, they will be in Dallas, where they always win by 1. Like, it just, every time they go there, it's 6-6 or 7-7 in the fourth quarter. And the Sockers, push their food around the plate for 55 minutes, and they go, oh, we got to win the game. We got to eat now. And then they win and they eat. some nervous times ahead. Honestly, this is a defining stretch of the season here, Tony. I mean, Saturday's game, I know I saw Eddie say the Sockers have never beaten the ambush in MASL history. Yeah, that was like in 2014 or whatever. Like, I remember being on a trip in 2013-14 when we went to St. Louis and lost. And then Nick Pereira and Phil got in a fight at the restaurant after, not like a physical fight, but, like yelled at each other in the restaurant later. I'm not worried about that. I think you can take that stat and flush it sometime around 9:30 on Saturday evening. I think that stat will be done. But at Tacoma, at Texas, at Dallas, at Chihuahua, get all 12 points. You're the West champion. Lock it up. Get all 12 points. You're the West champion. Everyone else can snooze and cruise. And we will do what we've kind of done since day one, which is put our minds on autopilot till the semifinal and say, that's when it's real. You don't. You get 6 out of 12 points. You're still in pretty decent shape. But you have given probably Texas hope. And if you go down and lose in Chihuahua, Sockers can't be any better than third in the power rankings the rest of the season. Yeah. So you got to go down and show that you've got a game to play against Chihuahua at the end of this road trip. This is stuff from next week's show. We're moving ahead to next week's show right now. Let's take care of business this weekend. Get 6 points out of this weekend and chop this trip in half. And then you got some more bite-sized chunks next week down in Texas, Tony.
Yeah, I agree with that. Take care of business. That's going to be the moniker for the rest of the season. It's just do what the Sockers know how to do. Do the philosophy, do the soccer, do the shields, do the arena, do the fans, do yourself the service of really representing this team as it deserves to be and go all out. And I think the players are in that mindset now, and it's just a matter of putting it into action. And yeah, you're going to run into hiccups. You're going to run into situations that are difficult. You're going to run into potential referee calls, potential clock mismanagement in the arena, or whatever shenanigans are going to happen. But regardless, you still have to persevere through all of that and really cement yourself as the best team potentially that you can be in the league. Because again, tough competition with Monterrey and Chihuahua coming up.
It's an interesting league. We're in the middle of it. It's always fun. MASL going to MASL, but this year, very, very interesting the way everything is shaken out. Well, join Tony and I for the game broadcast on Saturday on Twitch, MASL_soccer. We'll be there with all the action at 7 p.m. You can join Andrew Harvey and Peyton Behrens for the call from Tacoma Sunday at 5 p.m. And then Tony and I will be back with you next Tuesday at 5 o'clock with another brand new edition of Soccer's Overtime. Love everybody in the MASL. Love our indoor soccer fans. Of course, our Soccer's Nation. Everybody who is a part of our familia. We say thank you every week for supporting this show, for coming out, for making this appointment viewing for yourself every Tuesday. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. Support the Sockers. Go to sdsockers.com. If you haven't got your tickets for Saturday yet, sdsockers.com/tickets. On the way out, Tony, let everybody know where they can follow yourself, your great podcast, and your new website.
Absolutely, positively, Craig. Thank you everybody for joining us. And yeah, you can find me at everything I do at sandiego.futbol, sandiego.futbol. Or if you want to follow me personally and my adventure to see snow for the first time, I had to go to the desert. I'm at _Tony Sanchez. Interesting times out there. Craig?
You just missed it in Yosemite, too. Just missed it.
Hours.
You can follow me on X at 619 Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Annie and Elston on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Also available, by the way, as a podcast, available as a YouTube show. So check that out on the 97.3 The Fan webpage if you want the visuals of us in studio every day. But however you want to consume the show, live, podcast, video, we've got you covered on Annie and Elston. For Tony Sanchez, for Gabriel Costa, I'm Craig Elston. Thanks so much. Time to go cook the chicky riggies? Okay. I'm gonna go down to Rigoberto's and ask what Chicky Riggies, please. Just okay.
¿Qué, señor?
Reggie con pollo.
Ah, okay. Here you go.
We'll see what happens there. Till we see you Saturday at the arena. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Have a great week. And until we talk to you next, go Strykers.